episode is sponsored by our new next door neighbours, Incremity. So they're 18A Newcastle Street, so right next to us. Our guest today is Luke Parish. Luke.
Hey, Matt.
How are ya?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah.
This episode is partially sponsored by Luke as well, because he was kind enough to lend us some microphones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Thanks to Shaw.
Thanks, man.
yeah, it's all recording thanks to Rish. So yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been in town for a little bit. How's so people would know you from the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, who I realized when I was driving here, I had my PPC shirt on, and I was like, is that a bit weird? But
I thought
you
that.
assured me not.
It's not.
It's not. I was like, good.
It's totally fine. It's only weird if I wear it. Like, you can't really wear your own merch, can you?
Yeah, okay, so that's where you sit on that side of the fence?
I don't know. I just feel...
Because
like,
I
I get
noticed
it's
Jason Newsted from Metallica would do it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Metal bands always wear
those
their own
guys,
t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, those guys.
But sorry, where were you about to go with that?
I don't know. I suppose, like, shirt-wise, it's like, I mean, if you'd wear a T-shirt if you worked at a shop or whatever, you'd wear, like, a uniform.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I just feel like you're at work?
I feel like it'd just be weird. Unless it's, like, really low-key. Like, I remember we got some, like, What Reality Records label tees done, which
I've seen
like,
those.
I only
ones.
got a
They're
couple,
cool.
and it's literally just a little balloon man. Yeah, nothing, no text on it or anything. So it's just like, I feel like that's a subtle way of being like, this is what we do. But I feel like band tees, you always, you know, it's like your favorite band. But I hate the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. So you know, why would I wear this shirt? No, but I don't know. I don't know. You sort of.
Well, I really like this shirt because it's very MC Escher. I like the color palette, and I like the isometric style artwork.
Yeah, that's
your
Jace.
son, Sundial.
No, that's Jace Harper, who's a guy based in Byron Bay who does loads of like our gig posters and.
I was gonna say I definitely recognize the art style from one of your gig posters, at least one.
Yeah, he's like, he's really cool artist.
And
he
you do
used
a
to be
bit
a
of
screen printer.
You do a bit of graphic design yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So what,
on the side.
who, in terms of design, are there any do you have like favorites of album designers? Or is that something you just remember from the artist more so? Like, the musical artist, I should say.
I suppose, well, they're sort of all connected. I mean, I don't know. Like Leif Pajowski, did, you know, some amazing covers. I really
trying to remember. I know the name, but what were the covers that he did again? I can't remember.
He did the Bonobo one. He did Inner Speaker, Tame Impala's album cover.
Yeah, that's where I know it.
What else did he do? He's done loads, like heaps of music ones. That and who's the other guy? Storm. How do you say his name? Storm Thorgerson or whatever. The guy that did all the
Thorgerson. That was who I was trying to remember from Hypnosis, who does all Pink Floyd's
We
ones.
had a bit of a chat about this, I think, on the first or second episode about cover design. Yeah, so did he do Tubular Bells as well?
I think he's done.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think he's
if
done
that's right. Yeah,
most of them. Yeah, yeah, it's like that.
That was like a golden age for cover design.
Yeah,
because it was like no one knew where, like, well, not that there's really no one knew where the line was to be drawn. I guess it was like just an age of exploration with and new photography techniques and you know.
Is it a photograph? I just always assumed it was painting.
Bells?
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no, like, that's the thing though.
It's
like,
obviously like at least
they didn't have
photographs.
Photoshop back then, so there's always like some crazy story behind like how they got these things. Like Animals, I think we talked about Animals as well, and like there's a really good story about how they had to have a photographer set up like fucking ages away. It was either hundreds of meters or it could have even been like up to a kilometer away.
Is this for the Animals cover?
For Animals,
yeah, because it is a far away photo.
Yeah, they floated a big pig balloon up and you had this guy like take a photo from ages away, and that was a series of photos I guess as many as you get, and they picked a shot from that shoot.
It's so nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Whereas nowadays they would have just literally just like superimposed
drop him in. Yeah.
I don't know the guy's name, but I did a couple of photography units when I was at uni. We got shown this documentary of this guy who his thing was that he would take suburban style shots in the US kind of southern area, and of streets and suburbs, but they were highly orchestrated, and he would this one particular shoot, at least, he got people who were in the neighborhood and said, "Oh, would you be in my photo?" And he literally takes like 5 days to compose this photo, finds the right angle. They've got like full on like scissor lift, kind of.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I might have watched this as well.
Yeah, well, I think you did. It's on the same
he
units.
shoots on large format cameras. Yes.
Yeah, you've watched the same one.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes to this great effort just for one photo.
Yeah.
He won't. It's not like he's doing a series even. He might do like 3 or something. But yeah, it's
he
usually
works
just
like,
for one photo.
Like almost like a movie shoot. He'll have like if he wants certain things in the shot. Like he'll have that in there as well. Like special effects. There's no special effects, so he's just like
it's all
has to be in the photo.
Yeah.
Here's a question, because you guys know way more about photography than me. I know virtually nothing. But what's to stop someone from, like, let's just say they wanted to catch a shot in motion, or like a snapshot of some motion. What's to stop someone from like shooting a short video and then just picking a screenshot from that video? Do people do that?
Well, because generally speaking, if it's motion and you've got like a still of that, it'll be at a high shutter speed, and generally you'll film at double what the frame rate is. Will be your shutter speed. So if you're shooting for 60 frames a second, usually you'll shoot at 1/20th shutter speed.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens when you got a slower shutter speed and you select an individual frame is because it's been exposed for longer, it's more of a blur. So it'd just be really blurry.
So essentially, the quality of the photo would be much worse.
That said, some photos I've put up have actually been frames from videos I've shot because something lined up right at that moment and it was just too good. But
yeah, if it's moving super fast, so you need a fast frame rate.
Exactly.
Really fast.
So like, sports photography, they'd be shooting, I don't know, somewhere probably between 600 to 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is far much higher than a slower shutter speed, which you do for video.
Yeah.
And the reason why they don't shoot at a higher frame rate is because it looks kind of funny, but also you don't let in as much light, so then your ISO is higher and then you get more grain.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So
learning stuff about photography.
Yeah.
How many frames per second is the eye?
Yeah. Lots of people taking pictures, Rish.
People taking pictures?
Yeah.
I'm taking pictures.
Yeah. So, that's what you've been working on recently.
A little side project,
yeah.
I suppose. Like, keeping me busy when I'm home.
Yeah.
Sort of like, I'd say it's more, I don't know, it's more soundtracky than it is kind of music. It's a bit of both.
It's a bit of a journey. Like you were gracious enough to let me listen to it earlier today.
Yeah.
And you sent me a few songs here and there, but it was like I kind of got an experience of the full thing today.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is very much a journey. It is a soundtrack to something. It's very kind of
it's heavily influenced, I suppose, by like more, I don't know, more like flavors than songs, rather than being like, here's a, I suppose there's songs weaving into it.
Because there's really no verse chorus structure to it at all.
No.
There's maybe a couple little moments of that, but
I suppose I kind of like how people like the Avalanches and stuff sort of create a mood with people talking, and there's always like, it feels like you're somewhere else.
Very textured.
Very textured. Yeah.
So are you using what medium are you using to create it? Are you sampling, or are you using instruments, or are you using a bit of both?
It's a blend. Like, there's a lot of like stuff just recorded on my phone. There's a lot of, I tracked all like the drums and basses and guitars and stuff at home properly. But most of the samples are kind of just, there might be a string sample here and there, or semi-orchestral stuff, or just, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like the Avalanches in that it's all sample-based production. It's like the samples kind of just flow in and out of it on top.
Kind of just add another layer to it.
Yeah, it's like adding another layer to sort of, all like self-recorded audio stuff.
And that said, as well, with the layering technique of recording and like kind of like painting a picture, I guess. How do you sort of do that with breaking it down and playing it for me live in mind, or do you just want to like sort of like, do you just want to create something and keep it for yourself, or do you want to release it? Or
well, I definitely want to release it, I think, but it was, I suppose I never thought about playing it live. It was more like let's just do a recording project, because I'm kind of, I don't really have time to play it live or anything because I'm constantly touring at the moment. So it's just like, if I can just make something interesting for people to listen to and put it out there and see what happens.
Cool.
Just as it's sort of a vent. It's me just venting all these old songs I've been storing away and just putting them into something and making something.
Music for therapy, but
also it's good. It's nice doing something as well. Get your mind off like the main, like Crumpets and that main kind of project. I suppose it's like it's something where you can just be like, whatever. You're not even thinking about much. It's just like I can just do whatever. I can put any sample in I want or any weird texture. I suppose you don't have to go through a filter of other people or mixing or mastering engineers or anything. It's just like, just throw that in there.
Yeah.
Free for all.
Yeah, you can scratch other itches.
Yeah.
Musically.
Exactly. Yeah, you can get. Yeah, I can get out of the main genre and kind of. Yeah, blend. Yeah. Do a little blend.
Yeah. So you're a bit of a jazz man. I ran into you at Mild Life the other night.
Oh, yes.
Excellent jazz band.
Great band, actually.
Well, more than just jazz. Jazz is one segment of it, I feel.
Yeah, it's that sort of upbeat, very upbeat kind of.
Yeah, it's like disco, funky kind of rhythms, and I was thinking as I was watching them that it reminded me of some moments in Animals. To loop it back to that, it was like somewhere between Animals and Daft Punk.
Yeah, because
it's like sits right dead center of that.
Floyd definitely dabbled in a bit of funky stuff, a bit of slap bass.
Yeah,
I think there's a moment on Live at Pompeii.
Yeah,
where they do that, and like the driven synths in the background, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I like about Mild Life.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of that. The latest single's got this like cool kind of lute synth background thing.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Pretty disappointed I didn't get down to that one actually, and I found out because I could have had a lift down to Mojo's as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, I could have made it, but live and learn.
Oh, they are Australian, so they'll be back.
Yeah,
sometime
soon, won't miss
for
it
sure.
Next time, that's for sure.
Yeah, really cool. They remind me, like a lot of those synths, like the tones they use remind me. Have you ever listened to that record Plantasia?
We talked about this on the last one.
We talked about this as well.
Yeah.
Get with the program, man.
We're talking about how
I should have done my research.
You know how Plantasia got popular again? Is because it kind of got stuck in the YouTube algorithm, so it was out of print for years, and it still had a cult following. But they got this.
First listened to it on YouTube. Actually.
Yeah. So we were talking about the YouTube recommendation algorithm kind of being really, making an artist or bringing an artist back. Because there was another video I watched by a guy called Wang who kind of talks about like kind of interesting oddities that happen on the internet.
Yeah.
And one of the videos he did was about this Japanese city pop artist, and it was the story kind of connected to the photographer, actually, funnily enough, to bring it back to today's theme, I guess. But the video itself got like 15 million views, like an insanely high number, but it was from the 80s and kind of was, lost in the passage of time. But the YouTube algorithm, it got kind of stuck in there. Heaps of people listened to it and loved it, and it got insanely popular again. And a similar thing happened to Plantasia, and now it's getting repressed.
Yeah,
because there was only bootleg copies of it before.
I believe there was an original vinyl pressing, but there may have only been one.
Yeah, super.
It was like early 70s.
It
was kind of almost like a demo reel for Moogs.
Yeah, essentially.
Like you listen to it and you're like, shit, I want a synth now.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah, some people definitely.
I've got
around that back in the day.
I got a really cool record from
I don't
here,
think people
actually.
were using it to play their plants.
Yeah, no, most of the vendors they were using them with plants.
Yeah,
to the plants. Or actually,
yeah, because it's meant to be like music that your plants will love, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But sorry, back to the point you were making.
Oh no, that's right. What was I saying? All right, I got another kind of similar record from here about a year and a half ago, and it's called "Everything You Ever Wanted to Hear" on the Moog synthesizer. And it's like all these old classical tunes. It's got it's another one with a bit of a cult following.
Yeah. Was it like a Reader's Digest?
Yeah, it's on that level. Yeah. And it's all like classical songs, but composed on Moog synthesizers.
Yeah.
And it's cheesy as hell, but it's a good laugh. I picked up for like $5.
Yeah, what's her name made it?
Suzanne.
Suzanne someone. Yeah, there was a documentary. There's that.
No, it's not her. The group is called She might have been part of the group, actually. The group is called the Mighty Moog.
Ah, okay. There was another person, though, that used... I don't know if they were Moog synthesizers, but she definitely used synthesizers to redo classical compositions.
There's so much of that stuff. Like, there's actually... It's funny, like, working in a record shop, you can never really guess what people are going to be into collecting. No. But so many people are into collecting those like Moog plays, Bach, or Moog plays Beatles, or Moog plays.
I've thought about that, making it my little collection niche. Is the Moog demo albums?
Yeah, there's no such unless you walk into an op shop, pretty much. But even if you walk into any record shop and look in their bargain bin, or just look at the stuff that's been sitting there for ages, you never know what you're gonna find. There's always someone out there who is looking for it. And it's just one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. Like if you're into Kamal, you're gonna.
Oh man,
you could have every Kamal record.
You're living your best life. If you're
times like 100.
Yeah, 100%. I went op shopping yesterday, and all I could find was like Scottish bagpipes, Kamal.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Harry Seacombe. The Naked Vicar. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
Really suspect covers. Like, I'm not even gonna, for fear of like controversy, I'm not even gonna actually describe what was on the cover of this one. But like, go and
one
Google.
That would not be accepted today, is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, this was all humor once upon a time as well. But
is this like 70s?
Must have been 70s. But yeah, just Google Naked Vicar or whatever cover. And you'll see what comes up.
Yeah, there were some pretty raunchy covers back then. Definitely.
All the German ones. The German, like, Top of the Pops albums and stuff like that. They all have super raunchy covers. And there's people who collect those as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Really, really sexually suggestive covers.
If there's not like a certain amount of percentage of skin on the cover, they won't keep it on their shelf.
And I think they're a lot looser about that sort of thing in Europe as well, though. Like, they seem pretty loosey-goosey about it all back then.
Yeah, there's some strange... Yeah, I suppose it was trying to push the envelope as much as the music. It's like...
Do you go record digging when you're on tour in like international cities?
This is the thing. We have this like... Because me, our tour manager, Jack, and now Chris Young, who's plays with us as well, we're like addicts with vinyl. So when we're on tour, we'll all see a store and we're all just like, oh, come on. And all of us are just like, no, don't go in, because you can't, it's so hard to get stuff back. Like, you have to carry it around with you everywhere for a start. And when you're going in and out of the van in a different city every day, you don't want to be carrying around heaps of records. Like, I might get like 2 or 3, and then I can bring them back in a tote bag, like as carry-on luggage or whatever. But it's kind of like, it's a curse because you find so much good stuff. Like, I mean, we did a show in Rough Trade Records in London a few weeks ago, and that was just torture. They're like, yeah, you guys can get 30% off, and like it's all good, and we're all just like, oh, like control yourself, because
it must be the worst part about touring.
Yeah, probably.
Have either of you gone record digging in Japan?
No, it's on my bucket list. Though.
I will.
I hear actually, Kyoto is the place to go if you want to go vinyl digging in Japan. That's like from what I hear, that's the vinyl capital of Japan. And Disc Union, you probably would have heard of that place.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, Disc Union.
So that's sort of like, I don't know if it must be independently owned, but that's like the major record store chain in Japan, and it's so huge. And they've got such a massive selection of like used vinyl that they have like a separate Disc Union store for each genre of music. So there's like a Disc Union jazz, Disc Union rock and roll, Disc Union R&B, Disc Union electronic or whatever. Insane. Like, I would imagine that
look like a crate.
Yes.
I was trying to think of something.
Palette.
Yeah. I mean, Amoeba is like a mega store, but I suppose like these are like specialized stores for each genre of music. Imagine that.
And like people like among record collectors, even people who are just mildly into it, everyone wants to go record shopping in Japan. Like, it's just the kind of thing, because obviously, you know, you got the Japanese covers with how they've got the paper sleeves over it. And there's an extra element to the artwork.
Yeah, well,
the spine things.
Actually,
and then the Japanese bonus tracks as well are a thing.
Yeah.
So
it's really weird. Like, we got asked to do a Japanese, I think it was like a Japanese pressing or something of our latest record, but they said you had to have a bonus track on there.
Yeah.
So that's
do you know why?
Wow.
I know the answer to why.
Yeah.
Well, at least I believe
Blinders.
I do. It's something to do with Japan's tax system.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens is it's to combat the problem that they would have where people living in Japan would just order their records from, you know, locally overseas, like just
so
over
to encourage people to shop local.
overseas. Yeah, and so they were losing a lot of money to people ordering it from neighboring countries. And then what they did is they put the Japanese bonus track so people would buy locally.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'll be there next month, but I'm not going to Kyoto, which is setting now.
I'm
that
sure
Where are you
there's
going?
plenty of other places though. I think there's probably disc union like
probably in Tokyo.
all over Japan.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they've got a shop for
must
every
be.
genre, I'm sure they've at least branched out to other Japanese cities.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. In 20 years' time, we'll have like a JB Hi-Fi for every genre. I'm sure.
Sad.
In the dystopian
R.I.P.
future that we're headed towards.
Shannon Knoll Records on special.
Yeah, coming to a Westfield shopping centre near you.
I
Shannon
remember-
Knoll Live,
Daryl Braithwaite.
I remember when
playing horses for 18 hours.
Delta
Horses
Goodrum
loop.
came to the JB Hi-Fi I worked at.
Who did?
Delta Goodrum.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's
Is she-
that?
What's she like in real life?
I didn't meet her. I was there that day, but
You weren't allowed
basically
to make
she
eye
didn't
contact with
perform
her?
in the store. She performed in like the center of the shopping center, but it was, you know, a JB Hi-Fi event.
Yeah.
And then what you could do is they just took heaps of stock of the CDs and you could get it signed, and obviously, you know, that's how they made the money.
Yeah,
out of
we
it.
we
You
did
know, that impulse purchase, because you
Yeah.
know who calculates a Delta Goodrum purchase? Sorry, Delta. But
This is not an attack on Delta
Yeah,
Goodrum.
she
let's
actually seems
clarify.
very,
She
very
seems like
lovely.
a lovely,
Yeah.
wholesome
yeah,
lady.
yeah,
She's got very innocent eyes.
Yeah, she's probably never done anything wrong.
yeah.
Anyway, back to
She was an angel sent down upon Australia to grace our screens.
What are her bangers now? What's she bringing out now?
she just hosts X Factor, I'm pretty sure,
Ah,
or she's a judge, I should say.
She's a judge. Yeah.
What's her name? Trying to shut X Factor down.
What's that?
What's her name? The Sydney premiere.
Wait,
Trying
what?
She's
What's
trying
this?
to shut down the X Factor.
Who?
No, what's her name? Oh.
Someone actually tried
A
to do this?
singer or
No,
like a...
no, the lady that was against ecstasy in Sydney was
Oh,
trying to shut the festivals down.
The premier.
I think,
What's her
yeah.
name? Not. I know who you're talking about. I'm
yeah,
picture.
I
I'm
know her
picturing
face
her
because
in my
Brown
head.
Cardigans posted it
but-
heaps.
Oh,
But,
what's her name?
Something.
Yeah.
She's
And people
got like
always
a,
make memes about how she's just like always against fun.
Yeah, she's a bit of a
Yeah.
demure looking.
Stop it.
Like
Yeah.
she's a bit
Yeah.
dour.
But yeah, in my head, I was like piecing together her with the X Factor, and then anyway, just went nowhere. I didn't make the dots connect.
Just the neurons didn't fire.
The neurons did not fire.
Uh,
I had two different stories.
I had a question actually. I wanted to ask you, and it goes back to the touring thing.
Yeah.
What was it? One of my all-time favorite bands is Interpol. What was it like to tour with those
Oh,
guys?
Interpol. Yeah, it's good. Like, I suppose, like, you don't really get to hang out with bands when the support, they kind of have their own sort of world.
Yeah.
They're really nice guys. Like, we were amazed they asked us, because we did a show with them in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
A
seeing that.
one-time show, and then they asked us to do 2 more shows in Germany. So it was just, it's cool. Like we're kind of completely different bands.
Well, yeah, exactly. Totally different, different genres and different
Yeah.
vibe, different feeling.
It's more.
but-
That's more of a thing now. I've noticed.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think
you used to
it's
get like support acts used to kind of just be like a light version of whatever you were about to see. But
Yeah.
now the thing is like they just get something from a genre that's, you know, maybe the same tempo but otherwise
we're like
completely
way
different.
more metal and they're like kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, it's strange.
But it's like something like they obviously enjoy, like they really like it and they want to show it to you, which is cool. And I like that. I like that it's changed into that. You know.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes peeled for the next support slot by the Porn Crumpets for Delta Goodrum's upcoming.
Well, this is
tour.
This is the things we got to keep the doors open.
When Delta comes knocking, you want to be ready to be able to put her in that slot.
Oh man, yeah, why not? Optus Stadium, see you there.
Yeah, there you go.
Be there
or
sometime.
Or be square.
Yeah, but it was I suppose back to your question. I suppose it was pretty cool seeing. I mean, it's good to see people of that caliber that have been touring for like 20 years, and they're like, their production and their team, and they're just like the way things operate at that level. You get a real inside kind of
how it's
like
like
a tight
the
ship.
professionalism
of the professionalism and how the whole thing kind of runs behind in bigger venues and stuff like that.
Did you get a chance to like pick their brains about like well, I'm sure you weren't like like you said you weren't hanging out all the time, but you might have had a.
I mean I suppose like it's kind of they keep to themselves quite a bit. Like they'll just kind of be in their green room and we'll be in ours and sort of say hello in passing and thank them for the getting us on for the shows and stuff. But I suppose it's not, especially with that sort of level. I suppose with their level, it's sort of, I don't know, there is that kind of separation, But then, it was like, I suppose the closer you get to the level of the band you're supporting, that separation kind of comes down. It shouldn't be like that, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
I suppose
It's funny how that is, but I can definitely.
I guess as well, when like you've been touring for as you said, like 20 years or so, like they might
the amount
might
of support bands, you would have to meet.
You'd kind of just need to have your nest,
Yeah, you know what I mean, and they are in their like 40s, like.
It's not an endless party for them anymore. It's probably more of a.
They're probably avoiding us so we're not a terrible influence. Who knows?
Yeah,
because we're still even in the last 2-3 years I've chilled out quite a bit on tour. I suppose that can't keep it up.
Yeah.
Who would be like? Have you ever had a moment where you've supported a band and you've just been like, man, this is like have you got a favorite band that you've supported or played with in general?
Oh man,
or who supported you?
So many bands. Like, I mean, obviously, like I think it was like our third ever gig. We played the Giz Fest. They had that Perth Giz Fest here, and that was just awesome. I think they just released Quarters, and they were playing the River and stuff, and I was like, so stoked. And that was like before we were like in our very, very infant stages as a band as well, which was just awesome. Suppose who else? Now I'm trying to think who else we've supported that blew my mind. I actually played recently with Home Shake in Manchester, which was really cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird. The venue was a weird vibe, but that was amazing. Like to see that. That was cool. Just trying to think. My brain's like.
I'll put you on the spot.
Memories, yeah.
I'm sure it becomes like all a blur after a while as well. Obviously, like each moment is significant, but like
so many.
I mean,
supporting Royal Blood was cool. Like,
that's pretty cool.
They're an amazingly heavy band for a two-piece.
I remember being a bit spun out myself.
Yeah, totally.
I remember being a bit spun out myself actually because I was walking in the shopping centre one day and they had the digital displays and the ad for that gig came up and your logo was like splashed in the middle of the shopping centre. There's like families and all that. And I was like, wow, this is they've entered a new realm of logo space.
Pushing the PC envelope.
The Porn Crumpets envelope.
Yeah. Show your kids. Oh man, now I'm trying to think. There's definitely some bands that I really like that we supported. But maybe years ago. Maybe. Can't even remember. Brain's turned off now. That's the part you edit
maybe
out.
just interject with it when it comes to mind.
Just randomly you're talking about something completely different.
Yeah. Just feel free to change the subject.
Yeah, that's kind of sad though, isn't it? That I can't just go.
Nah, that's okay. I'm like we are recording something live, and I've just asked you a question. Like, yeah, it's pretty easy for you to go. Oh,
it's more like I should remember like what I've done in the last 4 or 5 years. Like, what have I done?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Was I there? Maybe.
Who knows, man?
Who knows?
It's like Woodstock. If you remember, you weren't even there.
Someone's
man.
got one of those things from Men in Black and just all the bands you've ever played with. Gone.
That was a great movie. The first one. That was a childhood favorite of mine.
Yeah, it's great. It went downhill after that, but that first one.
Now we've got Hemsworth at the helm. He's the new MIB.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, I saw an ad for it on a
Can the
bus.
world handle such a handsome man in black?
They already handled him dressed as a Viking.
That's
Sure
true.
they can handle him in a suit.
Now that
It's just a
Marvel's
clean cut
done.
Viking?
So I've not gone into Marvel films, but apparently this last one is like the end of it, of this era of.
Is it the one that's called
Marvel films.
Endgame?
Yeah. Apparently they're done for a while at least.
I hope so.
I find it hard to believe though.
It's a little bit exhausting now.
The world's it's getting sad for especially cult movies at the moment. Like things are just getting tarnished.
Well, it's all
Or
kind of
remade.
like-
Remade, yeah, but that's exactly like the remakes and the Disney's
Yeah.
just taking everything for a ride. They finally
this
got the rights to
remaking
Star
every
Wars.
film they've got,
It's all
but
over.
in real
Mm.
life with CG is
It's
ridiculous.
It is so stupid.
Yeah.
How
I
about
was-
write something new?
Yeah.
How hard's that?
I
There's
was
so many
shocked,
great
actually,
stories you can
to-
tell. Why restrict yourself to those?
That's yeah, so true. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all know it's a
Plenty of
profit-
other
it's a
stories
profit
that
thing,
they can
but
you know,
yeah.
rip off copyright.
I think it's
rights.
also laziness as well.
Sorry, I cut you off there, Liam. What were you saying?
No, that's okay.
There's,
Um, Yeah, they bought Fox recently, didn't they not? So
Yeah.
they pretty
Yeah,
much own
they're
what is
just-
that like?
Big news because when they release their streaming service, all the Simpsons will be on it.
Yeah, I did.
People
Really?
will subscribe to that
Yeah.
just for the Simpsons.
They're
I
gonna
bet.
be. I will be. And I feel
I'm
good.
At the
amazed.
moment, the Simpsons has its own streaming service in the US, but that was prior to Disney
wondered
buying out
about
Fox.
that.
Yeah.
So who are the other contenders to buy? I suppose the amount of money it would cost to buy it. Like HBO could maybe
it was
afford it.
Universal.
Maybe not.
UMG, sorry, I should say. UMG.
Yeah.
And who's the other huge media conglomerate? When I was at uni, we were talking about it because the buying process was happening and it wasn't clear who was going to buy Fox, but everyone was leaning that it was probably going to be Disney.
Yeah.
But basically, it was a really interesting study piece because all these different conglomerates have got their streaming services coming out, and Fox has some really strong IP.
yeah.
And so it was, it was an interesting scenario because it was gonna kind of give one of these huge conglomerates the
pretty
the
much
major
like,
hand.
Yeah, the
Um,
upper hand and
Exactly.
the monopoly essentially.
Yeah. And so, Disney obviously is going to have a pretty... Because they're going to have Star Wars, Simpsons...
Don't Disney own? That's
Jesus.
probably the question to ask.
Dude, there's some... Like, if you look down the chain, there's some really interesting kind of, like, companies that you wouldn't realize
Because it
are
just
owned by them.
branches out. It's like Disney owns
look
Fox
into it.
and Fox
This is-
owns.
we need Eddie Bravo here.
We need some sort of chart to figure it all out. But 100%, like, I mean, I feel a bit conflicted about it, but I will be subscribing purely for on-demand Simpsons.
So
Without a doubt.
I have a folder on my portable hard drive for the TV shows I watch, and the only one that's in there because I keep it as it's the one reliable show that I will always sit down and enjoy watching is The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And I've got it as like it's the highest quality rip you could get for each season, and I've just got it on there, and it's seasons 1 to I think I even went up to as far as 20, but like season 15 is kind of where it loses me.
A lot of people say that.
I'm very forgiving. A lot of people are like even season 12.
I thought up to season 17 was pretty good. I thought there was some episodes in season 17 that I thought were pretty funny, but that's just me.
Are you much into The Simpsons, Rich?
I
Rich?
was.
Sorry.
I haven't Simpsoned in quite some time though. I think I overdid cartoons. I think I just went, all the Family Guy, all of South Park, all the Simpsons, all that, for a few years, and then I sort of just, maybe I got over cartoons.
Yeah, I think I have
Yeah.
done the same as well. However, The Simpsons was just so much more monumentous than all the other cartoons. Like there was something more to The Simpsons, obviously because we had this culture of the 6 o'clock Simpsons and being a kid growing up with that around.
Yeah,
like you're always watching Simpsons because it's such a great show.
It eclipses like pretty much any other animated show, I think, in terms of rewatchability as well. Like, because the jokes are so clever, and like because you've been watching it from such a young age, and there's so much political satire and so many like much layered humor in each episode that every time you watch an episode, I get another joke that I never got the first time.
I've talked
no
about
matter
this
how many
with people
times
before.
I've seen it, you know.
Yeah. And there's jokes in there when you're a kid you find funny, and then there's also
you don't know why
undertones as well.
Yeah. Until you grow up and understand.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong, but I read that like some of the people responsible for writing The Simpsons are actually like mathematicians.
That's like Futurama.
Is it Futurama?
The other Matt Groening.
Were those
show.
people involved in The Simpsons on any capacity though?
I don't think so. Oh well, maybe since they started Futurama, but when they all started, they were all physicists. It was like physicists,
that's right, and
mathematicians,
and
another STEM field. I think it might have been engineering or something. And there's actually an episode of Futurama that has a formula in there that scientists actually ended up using. Like one of them kind of. I've got no idea about how any of this works, but one of them had a formula they worked on when they were at uni back in the day, and they never really touched and were doing the writing, and then they put it in the show, and then I think it was maybe mathematicians were looking would actually use that model, and like they kind of used that as like a bit of a foundation and worked on it a bit.
Amazing.
And it kind of actually
pushed something
an episode of Futurama informed those STEM field workers. So
that's
pretty. Had the reach,
that's a pretty crazy fact.
Yeah, but like,
what about there was a bit of trivia about the Simpsons intro where Maggie gets scanned across at the supermarket.
IRS forever.
Is it IRS forever? Is that what it says?
That's the episode of the Simpsons where it's the
that's the clip episode.
Right? The clip episode. They say that's what it is, but I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is either. But
that's what
I did read somewhere that there was a hidden mathematical equation in that flashing register thing, the digital display.
Yeah,
whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't think
it's just Easter eggs. Like,
yeah. It's one of those shows, you know. It's just so clever.
Yeah, much like a lot of music we were talking about before, like a lot of layers to discover new things and because like I binged The Simpsons from when I was a young age, and then once I kind of went to uni and all that, I stopped engaging with it, and as the episodes started going downhill, stopped watching it for years, and then went back and revisited it. And it's one of those things where there's so many jokes that you're a kid and the cue for where you're meant to laugh, even though there's no laugh track. When there's a setup and a kind of a bit of a punchline, and you just kind of laugh because you think you get it.
Yeah.
But then when you're an adult, you understand that undertone a little bit better, and then I think it makes it even more funny. You don't really get that with other shows. Like,
no, you
don't. I think that's kind of part of The Simpsons' lasting appeal, so to speak, with our generation at least.
I found that with like Monty Python films as well. Like,
when I
was a kid, I watched those, and I was just like,
because they were very like middle fingery in a subtle way as well, like the same way The Simpsons is, or maybe less subtle, but there are a lot of layered subtleties as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose the same with music, definitely. Like when you sort of get those albums, you're like, oh, I like that jangly bit, and then you turn out, you grow up, and you're like, oh, that was about something really heavy, or and you're like, oh wow, now it means something completely different to me,
like Maxwell's Silver Hammer,
rather than just and
you're like singing along that and then you realize it's about a guy like going, and you're like, what, how did I not like pick up on this
just
before?
fell into it as a kid, like
the Beatles were quite had quite a morbid undertone, I think. There's a lot of like really not sort of kosher shit going on with the Beatles.
Seriously.
Like that a lot of people probably still don't know to this day. George Harrison actually produced some of Monty Python stuff, I believe.
He's actually in
Life of Brian.
Well, he funded
he cameos,
it.
doesn't he? But he
funded
produced
it.
it.
Because they had like some, I think the company that was going to make the movie or something pulled out because of the, I suppose, the risk of the religious kind of joke of it. And then George pretty much was just like paid for it. Just like,
He read the script and he was like, you guys are definitely
this has to be released. And then he actually cameos in it as well. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Is George your favourite Beatle?
George actually, is my favourite Beatle. Yeah, he's my favourite Beatle. Yeah, definitely.
Liam, who's your favourite Beatle?
George is my favourite Beatle. But having said that, I enjoy like John Lennon's music probably more than I enjoy George Harrison's music.
Yeah, I never really
got a bit of a controversial opinion. I think John Lennon made like a lot of shit music as well.
Yeah.
But Mind Games, like that whole album from start to finish, that's like my jam. But George was a more talented songwriter and he was definitely a more talented guitarist, and he was like,
I suppose maybe that's a hard one. I feel like they all
all brought something different. And like I like John Lennon's music more probably because it like appeals to like the my poppier kind of like, you know, I like a hook and I like the catchiness.
Yeah, I think well George went down like a different path, didn't he? He sort of went down that kind of
very
spiritual enlightenment kind of path, and there's that All Things Must Pass album, which is really great.
Absolutely.
And I think that's my favorite solo Beatles album.
100%. All Things Must Pass, man, and it's epic too.
And it's a double album too.
It's a triple actually. It's a triple on vinyl.
Right. On CD, I think it's a double.
I don't think you have to be such a spiritual person to appreciate that album either. Like, it's just got so much. It's just an uplifting.
Yeah, it is.
Piece.
Have you watched the Scorsese documentary on Living in the Material World?
Yes,
it's a 2-part HBO one.
About
George
Harrison.
Doco.
I don't have HBO or anything like that. What else is it streaming on? Anything like anywhere?
HBO don't fuck with anyone.
I have
where can I watch it? Where can
I do have a couple of
Foxtel.
Yeah, okay. I've got a couple of MP4s somewhere.
I'll have to track those down for sure. But actually, Scorsese recently did I think another film about. Oh no, sorry. The first one he did that I was aware of was about the Rolling Stones.
I did the
and
Bob
then he
Dylan
did
one recently.
Rolling Thunder Revue.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that yet.
Someone told me about it the other day. Yeah, apparently it's really good.
But yeah, his music documentaries are fucking really, really good.
Yeah.
He's so well researched, and like he gets, I don't know, like I suppose it depends. I haven't seen Rolling Thunder Revue. I don't know if he gets any new footage of Bob Dylan or whether he's assembling it from old footage or whatever. But
I think it's.
I don't think Bob Dylan's probably into doing.
I know he
on camera these days.
Bob
he does. Yeah, okay.
It's like a retrospective thing.
Yeah, back and forth in time.
Oh, so he does actually have.
He interviews Bob Dylan, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because he's not a very public person these days.
No.
Yeah.
He's still gigging. He did.
Yeah, he toured last year. Yeah. But that's one I definitely want to see. But I wasn't aware he did another one as well.
Yeah.
About
what else he's probably done loads.
Yeah.
Oh, did he do Crossfire Hurricane?
Yeah, that was the first one that
Stones
I was aware of.
One.
Yeah, that was more of like a. Was that a documentary? Or was that like a? It was a live concert basically, wasn't it?
No, okay. That's
that's Shine a Light.
Shine a Light. So he's done a couple of Stones ones.
Yeah. Crossfire Hurricane's like the history start to finish.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't seen that one. I have seen Shine a Light.
And the other one that's really good. I don't know if Scorsese did it, but Exile on Main Street. That is about.
I have seen a documentary it's about the writing process and how they had to live in a mansion in France because they were wanted for tax evasion and.
Yeah, what?
So they basically.
I have no idea about this.
That's a weird
English
story.
Government was taxing them like 90-something% because of how much the Stones were earning as a band. So they just like eloped to France, the south of France, and just lived in this massive house. Had a truck basically parked out the front of this house that was a mobile recording studio, and they'd run all the lines into the house basement, and they would just have huge like raging parties every night and just living in France. And the stories are crazy.
That album Exile Main Street
that's how it was recorded.
That's the album. Exile Main Street was made in I think they did a bit of tracking in America as well, but
maybe some
most of it
overdubbing or
was-
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just like
Ah,
the stories are
that's
crazy.
interesting.
Oh man,
Like,
it's insane. Keith had like a $1,000 a day heroin habit or something like that at that point.
Yeah,
What?
and
And
apparently, yeah,
It caused a lot of problems because like between recording, like someone had to go and find Keith Richards like $1,000 worth of heroin each day.
yeah,
Before he was actually functional.
yeah.
So it was like, oh cool, we wake up, we gotta
And
go
they had
find
like
Keith some heroin.
speedboat. He had like his speedboat, and he'd just go out
Yeah.
on the like the stories are nuts. And then the Navy ships would come in, and they would go out on the speedboat, and the Navy ships would throw them like pounds of marijuana off the onto the speedboats, and then they would like bring them back to the house because the house had its own private dock.
I'm watching this tonight.
It's a
Dude,
part-
it's,
yeah.
it's
I am-
one of the
It's
greatest.
a part
stuff.
of it's a part
I've
of the
seen
reason
it.
why
Exile on
it's-
Main Street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
watched it so many times. I love it.
And you will
It's
listen
so
to
cool.
you'll listen to Exile now, and you'll be like
You'll love
you're
it.
in a totally different light.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
recontextualize it.
It's a real It's strange though because the album's so heavily influenced by like American music and country music, but it's like in France, like
Yeah.
so
but recorded
kind of
by
a
British
crossover.
people.
yeah, it's, yeah,
It's crazy though. Like they
it's
were
brilliant.
they were really good at like channeling different influences.
Yeah.
and, like staying ahead, like maybe not ahead of the curve, but like remaining relevant. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
listen to. I was listening to Emotional Rescue today before I closed up.
I think that's my favorite Stones.
Yeah, and there's
record.
like heaps of disco-y vibes on that album.
very disco. Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, it's
The song
Missy's on
Emotional
that one,
Rescue.
isn't it?
It's a disco tune.
yeah, and the Stones and Kiss. They're the two like bands of that kind of era.
Oh,
and
yeah, of
genre
course.
that had my favorite albums of theirs are the disco ones. So Dynasty,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
that has a Rolling Stones cover on it too.
It does.
Yeah.
2000 man.
2000 man. And
Yeah,
honestly, I
Satanic.
think Kiss does it better.
Satanic Majesty's Request.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was like have you heard that album? The Satanic-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's got
It's a blatant competing piece for there was like Pet Sounds, there was
Sgt. Pepper's.
Sgt. Pepper's.
yeah, it's definitely
and
a
that was their
Beatlesy.
answer.
Yeah, it's got some good. Yeah, it's kind of like it's not as I don't think it's done as well as the Beatles did it because they were kind of a little bit I don't know.
It was kind
Yeah.
of just the Beatles did it first, and
And
they
like
kind
She's a
of
Rainbow
tried to copy it.
and tracks like that. Yeah, exactly. And the Beatles
Didn't we
always
joke about
had
this
that.
today? The Beatles did it.
Oh,
the Simpsons
Beatles did it.
when
Yeah,
the
the
Beatles,
Beatles did it. Is the new Simpsons did it,
But for
because
music.
Music, like
okay,
Yeah,
well, there you go.
maybe
Beatles
we
did
can
it.
make that a thing.
because we were
a
talking
meme
about
into
the
ether.
infinite. What were we talking
The
about?
infinite locked groove.
The locked groove at the end of the record, and
Which album was a Beatles thing originally, was it?
I think it's at
Sergeant,
the end of
the locked groove.
It's at
Mm.
Sergeant Pepper's, isn't it?
Sergeant Pepper's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of them saying, "Can't do
Does
it
it
any other way."
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
what they're
You
saying.
can
It's
do
kind
it
of like
any
distorted.
other way, and it just keeps
Yeah.
going around and around and
I
around.
never noticed that.
Yeah,
ever.
and
Not
King
all
Gizzard did
pressings
it
have it.
too.
Okay, I probably
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
only
then.
some of them.
The ones you want.
The
Yeah.
ones you want. Yeah, absolutely.
That's I still don't have Sergeant Pepper's in my collection for that reason. When they did the remaster, I think the remaster has the locked groove, but it's super expensive.
Mm.
But have
Okay.
you listened to the remaster of Sergeant Pepper's?
No,
Like the one that came
I
out
don't know how
a
I
year
feel.
ago?
I'm not.
No, trust me. Yeah,
Okay.
you want to.
All right.
Well, here's the
I'll
thing.
give it a
So,
go.
you know how you got the mono versions of the albums and the stereo versions?
Yeah.
I think Sgt. Pepper's just had a stereo version anyway. But when they did the remasters of the original series of remasters, or the stereo masters, I should say, sorry, of the Beatles albums, they did it in basically an afternoon. And it was super rushed. The drums are panned all the way to one side on a lot of tracks. And
Yeah, I think I've
It's-
got a version kind of
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
yeah, it like I originally didn't care about it, and then I heard an interview with Paul McCartney where he said he heard things again that he completely had forgotten about, even though he checks in, so to speak, with those albums.
So this is remastered at Abbey Road, was it?
Yeah.
Is this the
Yeah,
one?
it's a
Yeah.
remix remaster. It
Remix
came out
remaster.
about a year or two ago, but they
Yeah.
only did Sgt. Pepper's. Like
Or
they
is
did
it
the
Audio
remasters
Fidelity?
a few years
Is it-
ago.
Is it that label, Audio Fidelity?
I don't know. It'll be on Apple.
Yeah, on
Oh,
their-
so it
their
wasn't a
own
vinyl
label
release. It was
still.
like a.
It's on vinyl. They did
Okay.
it. They did everything: vinyl, CD, and digital. But it's
It's-
like if you look up the 2017 edition, I think it is.
It's interesting though because there
It's
was
very
yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
originally was like, oh, how much better can it get? And then I listened to it and I was like,
Okay.
wow, this is.
I'll give it
very
a go.
different. It might as
Yeah.
well be a completely different listening experience.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
It's very different.
So I remember
you go.
there was someone made a comment. There was like a documentary or something where they were like, what's the best way to listen to a Beatles album? And the guy, it was an engineer, was working with them at the time. Not
George
the mate.
Martin.
Not George. It was another guy, and he was saying, listen to the Beatles in mono, because that's how they would have heard it. Because a lot of the time they were traveling and touring during, I suppose, this was right up until before they stopped touring altogether, but they were getting sent the mixes by mono, so they were approving stuff basically by, not that they were engineers or anything, but they, you know what I mean, they were their final sign-offs on all Beatles mixes were in mono pretty much, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, do you want to hear it how they heard it, or do you want to hear it how the engineers engineered it basically in stereo field? Like,
I suppose there was a record store day this year. There was a re-release of the first Woodstock compilation on vinyl. So you would have seen that around.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
And it's basically the PA mix.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say that's a soundboard mix. Hey?
Yeah, it's in full mono. It's the fully expanded edition. So all of the tracks that were cut down originally for the first release, they've reinstated those, put it on a triple vinyl, and you're basically hearing what you would have heard if you were standing somewhere in the crowd, in between the PA speakers. Yeah, wow. I'm not going to say it's pretty rough, but
I mean,
having said
what
that,
do you expect for a desk mix back then?
Yeah, exactly. Like, but having said that, just for the sake of like the importance of it,
and the flavor as well, you get from it,
to hear it, and it's all the you hear all the introductions and all the banter through the mics and everything, and it's just like you said, it's
close your
it's
eyes,
a different experience.
I suppose that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where using ambient noise and using environmental sounds with music kind of makes you feel like you're somewhere else.
That's how Brian Eno got into ambient music, because I think the story is that he was at home one day and he couldn't get his stereo system work properly or something, and it was only just working, and then the rain came in, and like he was hearing the rain hitting his roof, and he had this spark of a moment where he was like, oh, what if you could create music that's equally in the background as it is listenable, and you can pay attention to it. And that was kind of the catalyst for him to start exploring ambient. And that's back then that was Brian Eno was a rock star, and now we know him as like that ambient electronic
he's
pioneer.
way more well known for
he's
that.
Definitely a lot of people like probably don't even know that he was in Roxy Music, and
I always forget about that.
I didn't know that. I'd heard of Eno long before I knew he was in Roxy Music.
I had no idea that he produced the first Devo album.
Yeah, he's produced you look at his production credit, he's done so much that I had no idea that he did. Like he produced U2's probably biggest albums as well, and which
I had no idea, because I only looked up his credits the other day because I listened to that Boards of Canada to our mixtape. And the Devo track stood out to me, and I looked up the track listing, and I was like, wow, that's a really interesting song. I always wiped Devo was obviously always the Whip It band. And I just thought it was like a funky cocaine song from back in the day, and just just played a mix 94.5, and that's as much as I assume about it. And then
Devo,
I was like, wow,
man.
Devo. I was like, and I was like, man, Boards of Canada are playing Devo, and
so
I went through
band.
and I looked at that album, and I was like, man, this is brilliant. And they were like, they were very.
They started
kind
as
of
a quirky
art
punk
punks.
band, art rock, art punk.
Do you know how why they're called Devo?
It's something to do with they came up with this concept of the devolution of man.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they were like,
well, it was a popular theory at the time that the university they went at, which had a shooting, and there was something that happened in response. I didn't read the full story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And that's how that it was a bullshit theory, and it was quite racist.
Yeah.
And they were kind of parodying it.
Yeah. The whole band was a parody, like the energy domes and the fucking matching jumpsuits and just the general tongue-in-cheek nature of everything they were doing. It was kind of going back to what you were saying, they started as an art punk band, and they were basically just satirizing everything.
It's there's definitely that other layer to them that
Very much like the Residents in that way.
Mark, what's his name? Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo went on to do.
I think Mother's Boy or
What did he do? Mothersbaugh.
You're probably right.
So he did a bunch of Wes Anderson soundtracks.
No shit.
For real? Which movies?
So he did Rushmore. I think he had some involvement in Grand Budapest and possibly.
Love that film.
Don't hold me to that, but I think but the main one he did was the Rushmore soundtrack.
Been meaning to
It
watch
was
that
in
film,
between.
yes.
It's a great movie. It's like part sort of garage rock kind of soundtrack, and then like there's all these really cool little
Makes total sense actually.
jingles in between.
'Cause there's a Devo song on the soundtrack to Life Aquatic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's quite
Gut
involved
feeling.
with Wes. Yeah, in lots of stuff.
There you go. Did he not? He passed away, I think, didn't he? Or was that his brother? Because I think there were two brothers in Devo, the Mothersbaugh brothers.
Oh no, he's still alive. Mark is, I'm pretty sure.
One of them,
because he does art shows and stuff now as well.
Yeah, right. Oh,
Yeah.
Apparently,
that's good news.
the story goes that Brian Eno and David Bowie were fighting over who would get to produce them because they both were like, "Wow, this is
right.
this is something." And Bowie and Eno really fought over it, and Eno won in the end.
I'm glad because I think it suits Eno a bit more, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, well, in retrospect. Bowie
I
could've
was
done something
reading as
amazing with
well that it kind of didn't go as well as planned, and that Brian Eno tried to show them a lot of direction, but they kind of resisted, and that from what I could read, or from the tone I was gathering at least, that it kind of seemed like they were upset themselves for not kind of trusting Eno's direction a little bit more at the time.
Yeah.
And he recorded synths for a lot of tracks, but they only ended up using them on like 4 of the tracks.
Which album is this, by the way? Which
the
Devo
first
album?
one? Are we
not men? We're Devo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did he produce any of their other albums, or was it just that one?
I think it was just that one. I think they moved on after that one.
Yeah.
I think
because they definitely they took a more new wave approach to their songwriting after that, which was, again, I think I was like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of move as well, because new wave was like massive, but a lot of people in new wave were taking themselves very seriously at the time, whereas Devo were kind of like a bit of a breath of fresh air, I imagine.
Yeah, like the groups like the KLF as well, they're very like that. I love art punk bands when there's a real kind of statement to art in itself.
Did they not like set $1 million on fire?
That's correct. Yeah, they did.
That's a pretty big statement.
Really?
Basically, what the KLF did is, so they started off
and all
doing
their
ambient
records.
albums. So Jimmy Cordy was part of the Orb with Alex Patterson, or Dr. Alex Patterson, however you want to refer to him. He's not actually a doctor. He just does
He
that.
just
He's
self-titled himself as a doctor.
He's an interesting
Self-appointed.
bloke. Yeah, pretty much.
Wears one of those like things on his head, like the big silver circles. Just wears that everywhere.
Yeah, probably reckons
Just
he's
carries a
like
stethoscope.
a doctor of dub or something like that.
Dub Doctor.
Yeah, probably something like that. But so Jimmy Cordy was in the Orb, and then they split up, and he created the KLF with Bill Drummond, who was an A&R rep for a record label. And so I think the first thing they did is they wrote the manual. Have you heard of the manual?
No.
So it was the first release they did. It's the manual by the KLF. You can only get it as a PDF online if you Google it.
So it's like not like a manuscript. What's the word I'm thinking of?
Manifesto.
A manifesto.
But it kind of, it's basically that, but it's called the manual, the number one way to, the easy way to make a number one hit, I think is the subheadline.
Yeah.
And it's basically them going through the whole process. It is a little dated because this is like early 90s. And so a lot of things aren't relevant anymore. But basically, they're talking directly to the audience, and they're telling you exactly what to do to make a number one hit. And so they're like, all right, now what you're going to do is you're going to open up the Yellow Pages, and you're going to find a recording studio. But you don't want to go the cheapest one. You want to find one where the guy recording it is, you're paying a little bit more, and he's willing to kind of do extra things for you for this reason, that reason, blah, 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 blah. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to write some songs, and you do it in this key, and blah, 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 blah. And then it takes you all the way to the end of performing big concerts, right? And because Bill Drummond was an actual A&R rep, so he knew the industry top to bottom really well. And Jimmy Cordy coming in with the art punk sensibility, even though Bill Drummond is in his own right too. Anyway, they wrote that book, and they released some albums too. But they were like ambient albums, very much like The Orb.
Yeah.
And then basically or maybe those albums came first and then they wrote the book. I think actually that is the right order. The few ambient albums first, then they wrote the book, and then what they did is they put what they preached into practice, and they created some #1 hits.
Yeah.
So 3 a.m. Eternal was one of them, and then they had another one called Doctor in the TARDIS, where it was like a Doctor Who song, and they were all dressed up in like Doctor Who kind of gear and for the music video. And they released those songs, and they got huge in the UK, were making absolute bank. You know, their music was being used in the dance scene. And then they got asked to perform at the Brit Awards, and they said, yeah, we will. But instead of performing, what they did is they got a grindcore band to come out and perform their soul song.
Who was the
so
band?
It's like these guys, it was another band, and they were on stage with them playing, and they had it's gone from vocals of like soul singers to, you know, literal screeching. And then one of them, you wouldn't be able to do this today. I think it's Bill Drummond. He comes out with a machine gun with blanks and fires blanks into the crowd. The curtains drop, and they announce over the PA, the KLF has quit the music industry, and they literally deleted their whole back catalog. So you can't buy it anymore. No one can make royalties off it. Like, they fully removed themselves from the music industry. The only way to get their music is to pirate it or to buy a secondhand copy.
That is
it's amazing.
Serious statement.
And they did that, but they said the KLF has quit for, I think it was 27 years. I think it was.
Is that what they announced? The KLF has quit the music industry for 27 years.
Yeah, I think they followed it with a statement. But anyway, what they did is so that they pulled their catalog. They weren't making money anymore. They fully stuck to their word. And then they thought, okay, well, we've got all this money. What are we going to do? And so they had this idea that they would create the K Foundation, which would be a place where basically a halfway house for musicians, where musicians could live basically rent-free, not have to worry about paying the bills and the rent, and they could focus solely on their art. And I think it was about a year they did that or something like that, and it went terribly because they came to the conclusion that because everything that came out of it was shit, and they came to the conclusion that great art comes from great adversity, you know, and great struggle, and that's where they kind of realized that this wasn't a good idea. So they pulled out the K Foundation, and then they were like, all right, we got £1 million left. So way more than $1 million even. And they said, we got £1 million left. What do we do with that? And they kind of philosophized about how they didn't like how the money was controlling them and, you know, the decisions they were making. And they said, let's burn it. And so what they did is, because most countries it would be a crime to do that, is they figured out there was a loophole that if they flew to this island, they could do it on the island and burn it and not be held legally liable. So they flew to this island. It was like off Scotland or something like that. And they filmed themselves doing it, and they took it around and they toured it just to get people's reactions, but they didn't make any money off the tour. Like, they made sure that there was no element where people could pin them and being like, oh, you know, you burnt £1 million, but now you're making $2 million by, you know, showcasing it.
Yeah.
But they fully like did not make money off it. And there's a clip on YouTube of them on a Q&A style panel show. Yeah. And it's Jimmy Corti and Bill Drummond on this panel, and the singer from Def Leppard. And it's one of those ones where the crowd asks questions. Yeah. And people are really upset about this, and because people are like, oh, you could have given that money to homeless people, or you could have fixed these problems. And their point is like, hey, no, there's no less loaves of bread in the world because of this. You know, and it was kind of a statement on. So
they were trying to say, oh, it's an economical problem. It's not like.
Yeah, they were kind of commenting on how like reliant we are humanity-wise on economics as well. Like, you know, but they weren't even saying that. Like, that was obviously an element to it, but you know, the point he makes as well is, hey, if we spent this on sex, drugs, and rock and roll, no one would give a shit. But because it's a lost opportunity that you think, oh, if only I had that money, that people get upset.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was really funny because when I found that out when I got into the KLF through venturing through ambient music, and I remember reading that story, and then the next day I went over to Mum's for lunch and I told my mum the story, and I was like, listen to this crazy story I found from this band from the 90s. And you know, there was nothing that triggered me to investigate them. And, you know, my mum found that quite interesting. And anyway, left lunch, went back home and said, see you, mum, blah, blah, blah. And I'm driving and she calls me up and she goes, you should put on the ABC radio right now. They're talking about your band. And I was like, oh, which one? And then I put on the radio and they were talking about the KLF doing this.
Oh,
and it was just like the pure coincidence, like one of those crazy, you know, we live in a matrix kind of moments.
Yeah.
But they were talking about it because there was a lady who'd written a book and it was about opportunity, about money and the psychology of money.
Yeah.
And the point she made, she uses the KLF situation of them burning £1 million as kind of the main, you know, kind of point of return in terms of looking at examples of people getting upset over money and all that. But they were saying that the parts of the brain that involved with tools, so, you know, using instruments, but also opportunity light up when we see money. And, you know, it also releases an endorphin release. So it's one of the few things that engages those two parts of the brain. And that's why people are getting really upset, because with that comes a lot of emotion.
Because it's a means to an end, I guess.
Yeah, it means a lot of things. It's a representation of the exchange of, you know, goods and services, obviously. But, you know, but yeah, that's a good album.
Bloody
That's
fascinating
a crazy story. I had
Yeah.
nothing to say. I just wanted to listen to that. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
There's nothing to add.
Can you find the footage of them like
Burning it?
firing a gun into the audience and like who
Yeah,
was that?
oh yeah, it's all in there. Someone's put it all in like one 20-minute YouTube clip.
There you
I'll
go.
link it on the podcast as well.
They need a documentary.
Oh, there would be.
There was got to be.
Yeah, there would be a few.
But is there a Scorsese one?
Doing some
Well, they were
Googling.
very popular back in the day in the 90s.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
didn't realize that whole.
Very similar to
story.
Devo in that art punk sensibility
Yeah.
We just had their album through the shop, a nice pristine secondhand copy.
of the KLF.
Yeah, I sold it though.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, which one was it?
It's the one with the speaker on the cover, the blue.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. I'm not into that.
It wasn't one of their ambient ones. It was like
Yeah.
it was very housey.
That's the house one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's. I think it's the White Room.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite album of theirs is called Chill Out, and it's very light Avalanche. Rish, you would love it.
Okay.
It's a
Chill Out.
It's called Chill Out by the KLF, and it's a sample based album, just like the Avalanches. The Avalanches would have drawn a lot of inspiration.
Yeah,
from it.
yeah, cool.
And the idea is that the concept is that you're traveling through the southwest of America, and like you're on a train, and you can, you know, you'll pass cars where like Jimi Hendrix is being blasted out, and they've got these samples.
Yeah,
but then
I
it
love
goes
that.
into like
Yeah,
real
yeah.
kind of rhythms, but it's a very journey-esque kind of
Yeah,
album.
great.
It's awesome.
Wow.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know the Orb, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got the Adventures Beyond the Ultra World album. It's kind of like that in a way.
Yeah. Okay.
There's
yeah.
a really cool actual album from the Orb, technically, when Jimmy Cordy was still in it, and it's called Space. And it's a similar kind of sample thing, and each track is, you know, each planet. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn,
Yeah.
Uranus, Neptune, and I think at the time Pluto as well.
Poor Pluto.
Yeah, he's been demoted.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. Should we wrap it up? Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Rish, so just to kind of cap it off, so you've got your project, People Taking Pictures, coming out soon. It doesn't seem like you've got a date. Do you have a date yet?
I mean, yeah, I suppose it's close to being finished.
Yeah, you are teasing it at the moment. You've got an Instagram going for it
Yeah,
and all
I've
that.
just been
putting little
making
bits
really
out there.
short, sort of visual.
So what's the handle for
teasers.
that one? Is it just
It's some people taking pictures.
some people taking pictures?
Someone got people taking pictures first, so yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted Cool Guy 1 2 3 4 5, but that's actually taken. So.
Yeah. I think I've got that one actually.
Try Cool Guy 69.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure that one's not taken.
You have to use lots of capital letters and
Man, I remember when I worked at EB Games, we'd sign people up to the loyalty program, and some of the emails you would get from people were crazy.
Not safe for work.
Yeah, very not safe for work. And they would come from very young people, and you'd be like, wow, I don't even think you know what that means.
oh no.
Yeah, someone just made me absolutely laugh. But yeah, anyway, so people taking pictures, to be continued, and obviously
Yeah.
you've got the Crumpets
Yeah, we've just
stuff just released,
Just
and now for the
whatchamacallit. Yeah.
yeah,
Which is
Oh,
funny
no,
because
yeah.
if you don't know, you
don't know,
now you know.
It's very. I did think about that when my record arrived, and I
You
was like
get-
looking at the artwork, and I was like, yeah.
you could be like, well,
See, when you've forgotten the name of
what's
it,
their
you've
latest
actually
record?
remembered
Is
the
it,
name of it.
what do you call it? What's the latest? Oh no, it is that.
Was that the kind of concept between the? for
I
coming
can't.
up with the name?
There were a bunch of names thrown around. I think in the end, Jack was like, "Now for the whatchamacallit," and I thought, yeah, that was pretty perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, it
fitting.
is.
I don't think we can ever have a really serious overtone anymore
Yeah.
with the band name.
It's like-
It's like
Yeah. Not like
it's got to be
lonerism.
something really out there. Even if the music's
You gotta
really
live up to the
serious,
name.
Got to outdo the
Yeah,
band.
you
it's-
got to
it's-
just keep everything on the surface up here, like really random, and then the music can be as deep as you want. It's like, yeah, it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
scratching the surface.
Well, that's what I like about the Crumpet stuff is it's, there's this complete wacky silliness but sincerity to it too simultaneously.
Yeah, it's kind of like everyday life, isn't it? You just sort of- yeah. You
Just gotta have a laugh.
everything's funny until you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
So there's
Good way to put it.
yeah, great summary.
That's album number 4's title.
Album four. Yeah, everything's all good until you're having a bad day.
Yeah, that's it.
Part 1.
Always looking at that one's already taken. Yeah. And once again, this episode was sponsored by our new next door neighbours, Ink Remedy. If you want to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. The email that we've set up is rhubarbpod, so rhubarbpod@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions for anything for the show, or you want to reach out and jump behind the mic too, please let us know. If you want to sponsor an episode
Or just
few,
say,
let us know.
give us some feedback.
If we got anything wrong, please complain to us.
Yeah, we like
as
those
the old
emails.
internet adage goes, if you want to know something on the internet, don't ask, say the wrong thing, and someone will correct you. So that's how you get a response quicker. Say the wrong thing, and someone will.
So we're purposely slotting
frustratingly-
in like incorrect facts just to try to drum up some
Yeah,
viewership.
this is actually our research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So
All right. Thank
good.
you again, Liam. Is there anything that you need to say for?
Oh no, not really. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being here, Luke. Really appreciate it.
Oh no, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. See you later, boys. Good
Right on.
dance.
See you later.